travail, les besoins des entreprises, l'évolution des technologies, ainsi que les transformations environnementales que connaît le continent. Cet alignement est essentiel pour garantir que les compétences acquises répondent effectivement aux besoins réels de l'économie et évidemment du marché du travail. L'apprentissage professionnel offre un modèle d'acquisition des compétences en entreprise qui améliore l'employabilité et la productivité, car il s'inscrit au cœur du travail où la pratique et l'expérience guident le processus de production. Toutefois, la majorité des apprentissages professionnels en Afrique restent informels et dépourvus de soutien gouvernemental, dépourvus de normes et de systèmes de certification. C'est pourquoi, en 2023, la Conférence internationale du travail de l'OIT a adopté avec un fort consensus tripartite la nouvelle recommandation sur les apprentissages de qualité qu'on appelle la recommandation 208. Cet accord témoigne de la force du dialogue social. Il s'agit d'une avancée significative car elle fournit une référence mondiale en matière d'apprentissage de qualité tout en reconnaissant la nécessité d'une flexibilité adaptée aux circonstances nationales. L'objectif de la recommandation 208 de l'OIT est clair. D'abord, développer l'apprentissage, améliorer sa qualité et sa pertinence, garantir son caractère inclusif et enfin assurer des droits et une protection adéquate aux apprentis. Ainsi, les gouvernements, les employeurs et les travailleurs s'accordent tous à dire que les apprentissages de qualité sont essentiels pour améliorer l'employabilité, pour améliorer la productivité des entreprises, l'employabilité et aussi la transition équitable dans le monde du travail. Cependant, mesdames et messieurs, la mise en place d'apprentissage de qualité ne peut reposer sur des efforts isolés. Elle exige des partenariats solides. C'est pourquoi nous sommes heureux aujourd'hui de vous confirmer notre collaboration avec la Commission de l'Union africaine, en particulier avec les départements santé, affaires humanitaires et développement social, dont fait partie le docteur Sabelo, et aussi le département éducation, sciences, technologies et innovation de l'Union africaine qui sont aujourd'hui à ce webinaire. Tous les deux départements sont représentés aujourd'hui à ce webinaire. Les deux stratégies continentales adoptées cette année, soit la stratégie sur l'emploi des jeunes qu'on appelle Yes Africa, Youth Employment Strategy for Africa, et la deuxième stratégie qu'on appelle la stratégie continentale pour l'éducation et la formation technique et professionnelle, qu'on appelle TVET, témoignent de ce partenariat et de l'importance que l'Union africaine accorde au développement des compétences pour promouvoir l'emploi des jeunes en Afrique. Il est essentiel d'investir dans des apprentissages de qualité pour la main-d'œuvre africaine de demain. Mesdames et messieurs, c'est pourquoi les gouvernements, les employeurs et les partenaires doivent collaborer pour mettre en place des programmes structurés, accessibles, inclusifs et orientés vers les besoins du marché du travail. Dans ce sens, mesdames et messieurs, l'OIT reste pleinement engagée à soutenir le développement d'apprentissage de qualité en Afrique. Sur la base du plan d'action que nous avons élaboré pour la mise en œuvre de la recommandation 208, nous collaborons avec plusieurs pays d'Afrique, notamment l'Éthiopie, la Tanzanie, le Ghana, la Côte d'Ivoire, l'Afrique du Sud, la Zambie et l'Ouganda, pour ne citer que ceux-là, dont les expériences seront partagées aujourd'hui lors de ce webinaire. Grâce au dialogue, aux projets de coopération au développement et aux activités de sensibilisation, l'Organisation internationale du travail continuera à accompagner les gouvernements et les partenaires sociaux dans le renforcement de leur système d'apprentissage. Pour terminer, mesdames et messieurs, j'espère que les échanges d'aujourd'hui permettront de mieux comprendre comment mettre en œuvre la recommandation de 108 de l'OIT et encourageront chacun d'entre nous à approfondir les partenariats nécessaires pour promouvoir des apprentissages de qualité en Afrique. Ensemble, mesdames et messieurs, nous pouvons bâtir un avenir où chaque jeune Africain et Africaine dispose des compétences, de la confiance et des opportunités nécessaires pour réussir dans un monde de travail en pleine transformation. Je vous remercie. Une fois encore, je remercie les organisateurs et les organisatrices. Et chers participants, je vous remercie également et que Dieu vous bénisse.
Merci beaucoup, cher DRD, pour vos mots de bienvenue. Donc, je passe la parole directement à Monsieur Sabelo, Dr. Sabelo Mbokazi de l'Union africaine qui nous adressera aussi ces mots de bienvenue. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The African Union would also like to express appreciation for this cooperation on this area that is focusing on quality apprenticeships. So we believe that we are audible. I would like to recognize my brother Kofi, the DRD, but also Benjamin, the apprenticeship that is invited. Thank you, colleagues, for the invitation. I also recognize my colleagues from the African Union who have joined, particularly Miss Mary, who has been cooperating and coordinating so that we can all be part of this meeting. Colleagues and gentlemen, the African Union's journey towards economic prosperity is heavily reliant on integration of education and opportunities, as highlighted in the Continental Education Strategy of the African Union and the Continental Technical and Vocational Education and Training Strategy. These strategies emphasize the critical link between education, skills development, and job creation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Agenda 2063 states that the eradication of poverty will be achieved inter alia through investing in productive capacities, that is skills and assets of our people. Agenda 2063 also calls for the strengthening of technical and vocational education and training through scaled up investments, establishment of a pool of high quality TVET centers across Africa, and fostering greater links with industry and alignment to labor markets, with a view to improve the skills profile, employability, and entrepreneurship, including quality apprenticeship of especially youth and women and closing the skills gap across the continent and building and expanding an African knowledge society through transformation and investment in universities, science, technology, research, and innovation, and through harmonization of education standards and mutual recognition of academic and professional qualifications. Distinguished experts, dear colleagues, the African Union Free Movement of Persons Protocol and the African Passport are flagship projects of Agenda 2063, which also calls for the abolishment of visa requirements for all African citizens in all African countries by 2018, but also which has been extended and should spare students and labor mobility. So this is another way African Union is pushing for the movement and the circulation of skills. And this is another way that shows that African Union is placing high importance on skills development and linking that with the development across the continent. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the African Union also has come up with a joint labor migration program, which is the JLMP, which is also working on labor market information systems, skills forecasting, and labor migration statistics, which collectively support market-driven skills development and skills pooling across the continent. And this is important also as part of the calling for revolution of skills and advancement of apprenticeship. When we look at the regional economic communities, the RECs, working with the African Union, we take note with some level of contentment that there's some movement in development of mutual recognition arrangements. This is what you find in East Africa community, because skills and regional integration, skills development and regional integration are important. So it is very important also to look at this in terms of the lens of the RECs, the regional economic communities. We are aware that the East Africa community has developed a mutual recognition arrangement, which assists in terms of the recognition of skills around East Africa community and improves regional integration. We also like to share that the ECOWAS has developed ECOWAS human capital development for 2030, which is also aimed at integrating the skills, integrating the continent so that there's mutual recognition and movement and circulation of skills. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the important thing here is implementation. In SADC as well, SADC has come up with a SADC qualifications framework. So the East, the West, and the South have come up with strategies that are important for revolutionizing the skills, but also for driving entrepreneurship in this continent. As the DRD also indicated, the African Union, working with ILO, developed a youth employment strategy. Yes, Africa. Yes, Africa, or the youth employment strategy for Africa. And in this strategy, there's a heavy or highlighted emphasis on building skills, but also on focusing on promoting qualifications that come from the TVET that will allow a youth to be more employable, youth and women to be employable. And therefore, distinguished guests, the challenges we seek to address are real, but but so too are the opportunities before us. So we believe that our discussion will build on existing continental frameworks such as the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but also the Continental Qualifications Framework, both of which are essential tools of fostering coherent and structured approach for skills development, but for advancing apprenticeship in order to be able to improve employability of women, employability of youth. So with these few words, colleagues and gentlemen, we would like to wish all of us fruitful deliberations as we focus on quality apprenticeship. Once again, thank you for the cooperation with the African Union, and we will continue to work together on this stream of work until the revolution that we are calling for is in place and the revolution is at work, and we can see the productive young men and women in Africa. Thank you, and over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabelo, for this excellent introduction and contextualization of our work. Very important messages. Thanks for the partnership again to you and to the SD colleagues. So before moving into the presentation and then the country examples, I have the great pleasure of introducing an apprentice to you, or a former apprentice, and give our young generation on the continent the word and the opportunity to speak and share their points of view and their experience. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Christine Hoffman. I'm the Senior Regional Skills Specialist for the International Labour Organization at the regional office. And so I hope that Benjamin Wambuyu is now with us. Please, Benjamin, if you can switch on your camera. So Benjamin has been part of a quality apprenticeship program, a pilot initiative in Uganda in the hospitality sector, where he has apprenticed at the front office. And we've already had a great conversation last week. So now, Benjamin, over to you. Can you please tell us why you joined this apprenticeship program in Uganda, being a refugee yourself, what it meant for you, and how it has changed your life, as you already pointed out to me last week?
Super, that's great. Greetings to the day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Benjamin Wambuyu. I'm a Congolese refugee, currently living in Uganda. And I'm going straight to the point. Whenever I'm talking about this whole history and all this program, I always say this has been a very life-changing opportunity and a milestone occasion, a once-in-a-while kind of thing. So the reason why I go to join this program is, first and foremost, the spirit of independence, like feeling independence, because I've been a refugee in Uganda for as long as I can remember. I've lost count of the years and stuff like that. So that spirit of, like, in a refugee camp and stuff like that, they always take care of you like you are a refugee. Everything you're dependent on somebody, isn't it? So that spirit of being independent, the spirit has pushed me to join this program. As simple as that.
And what did you learn? So can you just share a bit of your journey? What did you learn, and what do you do now?
For sure, super. Well, the journey it's been crazy, to be honest. It's been crazy. I mean, as a refugee, that was the first time I'm stepping out of the camp and going somewhere else. So it was completely a new thing to me, a new world and new experiences. That was back in 2022. The program came, we joined, we passed through the whole steps. We got outside of the camp, we went where we were supposed to go. It was a very long journey, and but hey, I'm happy to be where I am right now. The learnings were, I don't know how to put this in words, but all I can say is the journey wasn't as easy as we hoped it would be. It was a lot of movement and meeting people, experiences, stepping into something you've never heard of, you've never been part of, you've never thought you'd be part of that thing. It was kind of giving hope to us and stuff like that. So we trained um, for a year in Ginger. After the training, I hopefully got retained in the hotel I'm working right now in Fairway Hotel. I trained here and I got retained here. I got retained as a bellboy concierge when the program ended. Then later on, I was promoted, and now I work as a guest relations officer, and that's that.
Excellent. So indeed, your apprenticeship has made you move up the career ladder. So you gained your skills firsthand, practiced with your colleagues, with your supervisors, and now you're a guest relations officer, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's not something that they give to everybody. So whenever I get a promotion, that means I've shown the good work, I've put in the good work, I've really endured in that, and yeah, it's great to know this program because I've never done this thing before. I never knew it was there or something. So it's all, yeah, great to this program.
So heartfelt congratulations. We're very happy to see how it seems to have really worked for you, really changed your life, as you said. Now, what would be your message, your recommendations to all the colleagues from government, workers and employers organizations who are listening now? How could we bring many more people into these programs? What would be your recommendation for making quality apprenticeships really accessible for all on the continent?
All right, thank you. First and foremost, I would like to say the hotel sector plays a very big role in terms of employment. So maybe one thing I would like to recommend me is putting in a lot of hotels into this thing because I'm pretty sure by our time we did this thing, not many hotels were aware of it. So bringing every hotel into this project, that would give this project a very big platform whereby you can even get more people because by the time the people are very few, stuff like that. Then just creating awareness, yeah, like to make hotels join this whole program. And secondly, it's just to tell the stories. I mean, our stories are not told enough. Like they're not reaching far enough because one of the best way you can make other people join this program is if they hear from us, if they hear our testimonies, if they think has been successful. Because the first time this thing came, even us were doubting because we've had a lot of things coming in, scams, stuff like that. But then when we succeeded, other people need to hear our stories so they can also be part of all these things. So, and I'm not the only one who's doing great in all these things. We are very many, so just our stories need to be told, need to be heard, and so that people can join in.
Thank you very much. Telling stories, scaling up, inviting others, sharing the good experience, and talking about it.
Yeah,
Dear Benjamin, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, for joining and connecting. And please feel free to stay and listen in. But I know you also have work that's waiting for you. So if you need to go back, you're free to leave as well. Thank you so much once again.
much appreciated, Christine. Thank you.
So now I'd like to hand over to my colleague Laura, who will provide an overview of recommendation 208. In the chat, you will find the agenda of the webinar, with the different speakers. So you can download it in both languages. And for participants, so that we know who you are, it would be helpful if you could rename yourselves as well. The instructions are in the chat. Thank you. Over to you, Laura.
Hello, everyone. I'm Laura Schmidt. I'm the Skills and Employability Specialist of the ILO, covering the North and the Horn of Africa. Thank you so much for this opportunity to introduce R208 to all of you. And also, I think what an opening with these words, also from a beneficiary of apprenticeship, and really showing what it actually impacts on real life. Let me just quickly share my PowerPoint. And I hope... Yes, I hope this is working for everyone. If Christine, you could just tell me that everyone can see the PowerPoint from now on, that would be quite helpful.
We can see it, Laura.
Excellent. So I would like to introduce to you the ILO Recommendation 208 that also Kofi has mentioned in our DRD in his opening speech, which is the new standard that the ILO has done on apprenticeship. Why has the ILO decided to work on a standard on apprenticeship? Because in the existing instruments that the ILO has, apprenticeship was not comprehensively addressed. So this was the reason why the GB has decided to focus on developing this apprenticeship recommendation that should really focus on the quality, but also on inclusiveness. The quality apprenticeship recommendation, as all ILO recommendations, has passed a quite lengthy, in quotation mark, process, going through the standard setting process and then being approved at the 110th session of the International Labour Conference. Many countries, workers, employers, federations, and obviously ministries have approved or endorsed this recommendation, which means it is a recommendation that is open to all of us to work towards achieving it. The process itself, I just want to say, probably there were key reports that led to development of this recommendation. So there's really evidence and information gathering that kind of led to the resolution and conclusion. And I think everyone was really excited when then in June 2023, at the 111th session of the ILC, the adaptation of the recommendation took place in the plenary. What does the recommendation entail? The recommendation has 7 key sections. It starts with the definition and scope of means of implementation. It continues with the regulatory framework of quality apprenticeship. A key component is component 3, protection of apprentices, because it's so important. We have added apprenticeship agreement as an own dimension. And then I think this is maybe one of the additions or kind of new focuses: quality and diversity in quality apprenticeship, promotion of quality apprenticeship. And the last section is really the international, regional and national cooperation for quality apprenticeship. I will walk you through those 7 sections, giving you some kind of glimpses, not going into all the details, but explaining a bit what each of these sections entail. So, definition, scope, and means of implementation. Our recommendation 208 provides definition of the terms apprenticeship, also recognition of prior learning and others, but let's focus on apprenticeship itself. A form of education and training that enables an apprentice to acquire the competences required to work in an occupation. Occupation is very important, consisting of on-the-job and off-the-job learning. So we have the 2-dimension on-the-job training, off-the-job learning, governed by an apprenticeship agreement. This comes back again that this agreement is very important, through structured and remuneration or otherwise compensation, and that leads to a qualification at the end. So, what does that actually mean in terms of establishing this regulatory framework? It really means that employers, workers, organizations all have to work together with training institutions to promote quality apprenticeship. And for us, this means a key part of this quality apprenticeship dimension, is the protection of the apprentice, that they receive adequate remuneration, financial compensation, that they are not required to work after hours, and that they are entitled to a type of financial compensation and remuneration. And this is something that we put a lot of effort to, which leads to the apprenticeship agreement, which is something that the ILO and also its constituents have really kind of said it should be a corner point, and the ILO office in Geneva has developed a model apprenticeship agreement that can help to kind of provide constituents with the ideas of how to govern and how to have an apprenticeship agreement. Equality and diversity. Very often apprenticeships are still gendered, meaning there are some kind of gender traits that are more appealing for females versus males. And also apprenticeship is not always inclusive for people with disabilities. So a key cornerstone of this recommendation is really gender equality and balance, also lifelong learning and apprenticeships for adults, giving the changes in the labor market the needs to retrain, and transition from the informal to the formal economy, which is another key cornerstone of this equality and diversity dimension. This recommendation can only come alive if we come together to promote apprenticeship. And how can we promote this quality apprenticeship recommendation? There are a couple of things that are important, like promoting it with intermediaries, working together with other partners such as GIZ, the AU, all of the development partners to promote this recommendation, but also raising awareness of apprenticeships rights amongst workers' organizations, employers' organizations. There are other forms in terms of sectoral or occupational skills bodies that can play a role in promoting this recommendation. So it's really a quite versatile instrument that can be taken up by numerous institutions. As I said, promoting transition to formality, I think it's important for Africa, it's important for the ILO, it's an important part of the recommendation. So transition from the informal to the formal economy, Article 27, is really, really key. Also in terms of enhancing training methods and competencies of master trainers and craftsperson, because apprenticeship is the quality very much determined by the type of on-the-job and off-the-job training that young people receive. So the in-company trainers are a crucial part in this system to promote quality apprenticeship. And also recognition of prior learning, people in the informal economy that kind of have already skills that can then lead to proper qualifications through apprenticeship. So RPL is very much linked to recommendation 208. The ILO has obviously played or is trying to play a role as well in promoting the quality apprenticeship recommendation. This webinar and this space is one example, but also in terms of tools that the office has developed. There are several tools that we have rolled out in some countries, and you will probably hear a bit more about it later, that promotes the apprenticeship recommendation. We have, and we will share the PowerPoint presentation, we have also collected all the relevant sources and material that can guide you with regards to apprenticeship, the guide for policy makers, the apprenticeship recommendation. There are several tools that are being also finalized and piloted that are really coming out of this recommendation and trying to bring this recommendation to life. And with this, I would like to say thank you from my side. I hope you get a bit of an idea about what are the key points of the apprenticeship recommendation. And I think you will learn a lot more in the following discussions and presentations about how it actually can come to life. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Laura. Mesdames et messieurs, chers collègues, chers partenaires, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Mon nom est Karim Toumi, Je suis le spécialiste compétences et employabilité. Je, je travaille pour l'Organisation internationale du travail et je couvre les pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et les pays du Sahel. Et j'ai le plaisir de modérer cette session consacrée à la promotion des apprentissages de qualité à travers des expériences concrètes menées dans différents pays et contextes. Mais avant de donner la parole à nos intervenants, permettez-moi de rappeler les objectifs de ce webinaire. Il s'agit tout d'abord de mieux faire connaître la recommandation de 108, l'OIT, sur les apprentissages de qualité et montrer comment elle peut soutenir les stratégies continentales africaines, ce que Laura vient juste de le faire.
Karim, on t'entend plus. Karim, on ne t'entend plus. Ton micro est désactivé.
Je suis désolé, vous m'entendez maintenant?
Oui,
Yeah.
très bien, merci.
Donc, je disais que nous avons dans ce binaire poursuivre trois objectifs. D'abord, faire connaître la recommandation 208, mettre en lumière des expériences nationales concrètes et créer un espace de dialogue entre gouvernement, employeurs et travailleurs et également acteurs régionaux pour avancer ensemble vers des systèmes d'apprentissage solides, mieux coordonnés et plus pertinents. Notre session, là, je vous invite à quitter les cadres théoriques et conceptuels pour aller directement sur le terrain et nous allons découvrir des initiatives qui fonctionnent, des résultats concrets, des défis rencontrés et des leçons qui peuvent inspirer les réformes à venir. Donc, pour notre session, trois pays partageront leur expérience, l'Ouganda, la Tanzanie et la Côte d'Ivoire. Et chaque présentation, et ça vous allez le découvrir, illustrera d'une manière différente la mise en œuvre des principes de la recommandation 208. Pour cette session, nous avons souhaité refléter pleinement l'approche tripartite de l'OIT en associant des représentants du gouvernement, des patronats et des travailleurs, mais malheureusement, le représentant des employeurs de l'Afrique du Sud n'a pas pu se joindre nous aujourd'hui, mais nous aurons malgré cela une richesse de points de vue grâce à la participation de représentants gouvernementaux, syndicaux et institutionnels engagés dans la mise en œuvre de l'apprentissage de qualité. Quelques mots de rappel sur le déroulement de la session. Donc, nous aurons trois courtes présentations de 5 minutes qui seront suivies d'un temps d'échange avec vous. Donc, je vous encourage à poser vos questions dans la zone de Q&A dans le chat. Je précise également que l'interprétation simultanée est disponible et que vous pouvez suivre la session dans la langue de votre choix. Donc, nous allons à présent entrer dans le vif du sujet et entendre nos intervenants. Nous aurons tout d'abord Monsieur Nicolas Tengue de l'Ouganda, de l'Organisation nationale des syndicats, NOTO. Il nous présentera les efforts déployés pour développer des apprentissages inclusifs, notamment pour les jeunes les plus vulnérables. Ensuite, nous allons écouter professeur Ilimamane Sedoika, directeur d'Arusha Institute of Accountancy en Tanzanie. Il partagera une expérience particulièrement intéressante d'apprentissage dans le secteur bancaire en partenariat étroit avec les entreprises du secteur. Et enfin, M. David Thuot de la Côte d'Ivoire, directeur de l'apprentissage et de l'insertion professionnelle, présentera le processus de modernisation de l'apprentissage dans l'économie informelle, un enjeu majeur dans la région. Donc, nous allons maintenant entrer dans le cœur de cette session et commencer notre tour d'horizon des expériences africaines. Et chaque intervenant disposera d'environ 5 minutes pour son intervention. Nous partons d'abord en Ouganda, un pays où les organisations de travailleurs ont joué un rôle essentiel pour rendre les apprentissages plus inclusifs et accessibles, notamment pour les jeunes, les femmes et les personnes en situation de handicap. Monsieur Boussingué, je vous invite à partager avec nous les principaux résultats obtenus à travers l'initiative d'apprentissage inclusif en Ouganda, les défis que vous avez rencontrés pour promouvoir l'inclusion et enfin les leçons clés que d'autres pays pourraient tirer de l'expérience ougandaise. Monsieur Boussingué, vous avez la parole.
Thank you so much, our very good friend, moderator Karim, and a very good morning or good afternoon to all the participants. My name is Musinge C. Nicholas, and I work with the National Organization of Trade Unions in Uganda, which is the most representative labor center with over 39 athletes. And we are trying to unionize, recruit, and ensure fundamental principles and rights work cuts across all workers and sectors within the world of work. Now, apprenticeship in Uganda, of course, is deep-rooted within the ILO Convention, rather ILO Recommendation 208. And because of that, the government has also come up with a number of policy and legal frameworks which tries to customize Recommendation 208. For instance, we have the National Apprenticeship Framework. We also have the Education Response Plan and Private Sector Engagement Strategy. So all these frameworks tries to ensure that all workers of all categories benefit from apprenticeship opportunities and the initiatives in the country. Now, in terms of, if I take you back briefly, Uganda, we have different categories of apprenticeship. We have what we are calling the National Apprenticeship and the Graduate Volunteer Arrangement, which is led by Minister of Gender. And this encompasses all forms of workers, including the refugees and forcibly displaced persons. You're quite familiar that Uganda, we have about 1.8 refugees, very open refugee policy. And with the arrangement of human development nexus approach, Uganda is ensuring that the refugees and the youth refugees take advantage of labor markets in the country. As we have had a testimony from one of the beneficiaries of apprenticeship from the refugee settlements. So we have had a number. Of course, there are other sectors which are apprenticeship-led. Currently, the most sector is hospitality and tourism, but we also have other sectors in agriculture. And in coming years, the government is, and of course with workers, with all the tripartite partners, will scale up into tourism, oil and gas, as well as construction and manufacturing. But if I take you back to initiative which we are undertaking with ILO, we are of course very proud partner of ILO Prospects, which we are trying. For us, we are coming on board to ensure that the refugees, as per the recommendation, are aware of their rights, and also their labor and workers' rights are well protected as per the labor laws in the country. So because of this, we have seen number of refugees joining unions, and when we are signing collective bargaining, we always also ensure that the refugees are part of these initiatives. We have also undertaken awareness creation on the refugees' rights, and for over 400 refugees who are now empowered and are free in the world of work. Of course, we have also seen about 500 refugees enrolled, and we are trying to scale up. The most important area is also we are seeing workers are part of all the national apprenticeship structures in order to promote apprenticeship. We are part of the National Steering Committee, and we always meet quarterly to reflect on the situations of apprenticeship in the country. We are also part of the sector-based, because we are now coming up with the sector-based apprenticeship committees as per the recommendation. So we are going to have sector-based in hospitality, in agriculture, in the construction and manufacturing. So workers are there. Now, the beauty with apprenticeship in Uganda as well is that it is open. The apprentices, the requirement is only O level, that is the basic minimum. And usually even other refugees and the migrant workers or persons from different countries, their qualification can be equated so that they can take advantage of the apprenticeship actions in the country. And of course, the other important element is there's no much requirements or terms and conditions. You are only required to have a letter of good conduct as an apprentice from either the settlement commandant or from a local council leader to allow you to enroll. And lastly, of course, the issue of age. Usually, sometimes we are mindful with the child labor component, but within the apprenticeship, usually it is between 16 to 35. That's allow a number of workers or the youth to take advantage of this initiative. So, Karim, I can briefly stop here to allow my other colleagues. I will always come back. Thank you so much. Hello?
Merci beaucoup, M. Boussingué, pour cet éclairage très riche et inspirant. Et nous allons poursuivre maintenant avec la Tanzanie, où le gouvernement a développé un dispositif d'apprentissage dans le secteur bancaire afin de répondre aux besoins croissants du secteur financier. Professeur Sodaika, nous serons ravis que vous puissiez nous présenter les principaux résultats observés jusqu'à présent dans cette initiative sectorielle, les principaux défis rencontrés lors de la mise en œuvre, notamment en mobilisant les banques privées et en alignant la formation sur le besoin du marché du travail, et également les leçons que d'autres pays pourraient retenir de cette approche d'apprentissage spécifiquement orientée vers un secteur. Professeur Sodaika, vous avez la parole.
Excuse me, can someone please translate by translator? The subtitle still comes in French. Can you someone little bit translate that part so I can come in?
Mr. Sidoyeka, the question was about the apprenticeship program that you have run, the main results you achieved, how work with mobilizing banks worked, what your key challenges were. There is an interpretation button on the that you can activate. Like that, you get live interpretation in English if you choose the English channel there. This was what my colleague asked.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Eliamani Sedeka. I'm the rector for the Institute of Accountants Arusha. This is a government-owned institution situated in Arusha, Tanzania. We have 6 campuses across the country. Now, yes, we are one of the institutions that truly believe in apprenticeship, and we pushed. And we have pushed in the white-collar jobs where we have programs in banking and insurance and in hotel industry, that is tourism and hotel management. Now, from the onset, when we were set up for the apprenticeship program, we approached ILO. I don't know if Albert is online. He was in Tanzania by then, and he gave us a guideline of how we could go about and establish this. So we started with banking. And at the time, banking sector was also undergoing kind of expansion into also incorporating insurance. So naturally, because we worked very good with the banking sector into the setup of the curriculum, therefore we found ourselves with natural partners in the industry, because in setting up an apprenticeship program, having the right partners who are willing to put the work are really important. And especially in the curriculum setup, I think this probably could be a place where others will take it simple, but it's really tricky to set up a curriculum because it's a completely different curriculum compared to the ones we use in other areas that are non-apprenticeship program. So because of that, we ended up having another program in insurance. And what we noticed soon after is that banks would come, literally scramble for our students to go and work them on both banking and insurance interchangeably. So a student will be studying banking, and when they go to the bank, they'll be pushed to work in the insurance department, bank insurance, as they call it. And they also went to the tourism sector, and now we are going into the postal and courier services sector. Now, one of the key things we learned, one, is really important to have the right partners, to have people who would believe on the journey. Mind you, this was still very new in Tanzania. So when you approach a partner, a potential partner, and explain to them that they will also be responsible to train the students, whereas what it has always been known is that you train students and they go there ready. But now if you tell them, listen, we have to work together on this, it was a little bit difficult. But once you get those ones, you move to the second step to together develop the curriculum. Once you develop a curriculum, now implementing the curriculum, they also help you. So one of the problems you also faced earlier on, especially in tourism sector, is that in many tourism sector in Tanzania, we are naturally hospitable people. So somehow the entire sector didn't put enough push into kind of professional training for tourism employees. So what we'll normally find is that you'll find someone who never went to really formal school, but have been internally trained until they become really good on the job, and they're probably head of a particular section. So assume that they don't have even a diploma. They have a secondary school, or some of them even primary school education, trained to become fluent in English, trained to become to work in the kitchen. They later become a good chef. So, and we found this in five-star hotel in the Serengeti Plains, etc. So when you send a student who is pursuing for their degree, and the line supervisor who is also helping them to acquire the skills, having gone to formal school, we've seen that creating a little bit of a problem. But since the owner of the establishment, or for example, a bank or insurance company are on board, now it becomes kind of easier to jog on that, to go through those problems and solve them one by one. There is no canvas that you can go around and solve those that you say you can apply to both. But if also what we are going through in Tanzania is that what I've noticed is that not many institutions, especially higher learning institutions, are joining the team. So we're not the institutions that are offering an apprenticeship program are not expanding as fast as I would have liked to. So if we could achieve that, we could be able to now push a little bit on government to help here. Why this is important is because one of the things I've noticed is that since there is a policy, there is a framework in the government that kind of govern this spectrum, but the adaptation rate is really slow in terms of the higher learning institutions that are willing to come on board. One of the reasons I've noticed from the experience we had is that it is not easy. It's fairly expensive to run an apprenticeship program from institution point of view compared to running normal traditional program. I'll give an example. Our hotel and tourism degree program, most of our students goes in high-end hotels and establishments. Some of them deep in Serengeti, somewhere in Zanzibar. So just to go visit them, it's a project and it costs a lot of money. So that's why we kind of see many institutions kind of are slow to adapt. I think in the past 5 years, we have 3-4 institutions. I think College of Business Education joined 2-3 years ago with one program. I think the Water Institute was joining, but we are not seeing many institutions coming. So that's an area where I would like to see improved. But otherwise, I truly appreciate the support, constant support from ILO. We've been together from day zero till today. Last month, I was in Malaysia, also the same topic, quality of apprenticeship. I truly appreciate that, and I look forward to work together in the future. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, professeur, pour cette présentation très éclairante qui concerne non seulement le secteur bancaire, mais également le secteur des assurances et le secteur du tourisme. Maintenant, donc, enfin, nous allons entendre l'expérience de la Côte d'Ivoire, où d'importantes avancées ont été réalisées pour moderniser et valoriser les apprentissages traditionnels dans l'économie informelle, qui est un jeu crucial pour la majorité des jeunes en Afrique de l'Ouest et même dans tout le continent. Monsieur Thuot, pourriez-vous nous présenter les principaux résultats obtenus pour améliorer la qualité de l'apprentissage dans l'informel et la reconnaissance surtout des apprentissages dans l'informel en Côte d'Ivoire, les difficultés rencontrées, également les grandes leçons à retenir qui pourraient guider des réformes similaires dans d'autres pays. Monsieur Thuot, vous avez la parole.
Bonjour à tout le monde. Donc je ne pourrais pas faire une présentation PowerPoint, mais je pourrais essayer de parcourir le dispositif avec vous. Le dispositif d'apprentissage avec vous en Côte d'Ivoire. Alors, donc mon intervention va donc se structurer tout simplement autour des 4 points le cadre réglementaire, les infrastructures d'apprentissage, comment nous procédons, donc la méthodologie, un petit bilan de ce qui a été fait. Alors, il faut dire que sur le cadre réglementaire, en Côte d'Ivoire, nous avons organisé l'apprentissage en 3 modalités, je pourrais dire. Il y a l'apprentissage dual, diplômant, et qui donc permet d'avoir donc des diplômes comme le brevet des techniciens, le certificat d'aptitude professionnelle et le brevet des techniciens supérieurs. Ensuite, nous avons l'apprentissage dual qualifiant qui permet d'avoir donc des certificats de qualification professionnelle, donc des CQP. Quand je dis dual, c'est le système dual dans son sens à raison de 80% de cours pratiques du métier dans l'entreprise avec un contrat d'apprentissage et 25% de cours théoriques dans un centre de formation avec un formateur, avec toute une alternance de séquences de formation entre l'établissement et le centre de formation et l'entreprise. Et donc, ça, c'est sur le dual. Et donc, la formalisation du contrat, l'assurance des apprentis, tout ce qui est accompagnement en termes de prestations sociales, tout ça, ça a été donc réglementé. Et tout ce qui est avantages fiscaux aux entreprises qui interviennent, tous ces éléments ont été donc réglementés. Et donc, c'est un dispositif aujourd'hui qui fonctionne, avec lequel nous formons beaucoup de jeunes dans le cadre de l'école de la deuxième chance. Le gouvernement a mis en place un programme de formation et d'aide à l'insertion pour tous les jeunes hors du système scolaire ou des jeunes qui n'ont pas pu achever leur parcours de formation ou des jeunes qui ne sont même pas allés à l'école. Donc, on a mis un système d'apprentissage en place, dual, voilà, avec les établissements de formation qui permet à tous ces jeunes de pouvoir, pour des formations par apprentissage qualifiant, de pouvoir acquérir des compétences en 12 mois maximum, 3 à 12 mois maximum. Et donc, ce système dual permet de faire donc ces formations. La forme la plus développée du dual, c'est le dual qualifiant. Donc, c'est des formations de 12 mois maximum avec des certificats de qualification professionnelle, les CQP. Nous avons beaucoup de financement, donc des partenaires, la Banque mondiale, l'AFD, l'UNICEF. Cette modalité est utilisée dans beaucoup de programmes de gestion des groupes spécifiques, notamment la lutte contre le travail des enfants. Donc, ces jeunes, qu'on sort de certaines activités, on les met en apprentissage. La lutte contre l'abandon, ce sont des offres alternatives de formation qu'on fait. On m'entend, hein? Allô?
Oui, on vous entend très bien, Monsieur Thiou.
Voilà. Donc, ce sont des offres alternatives de formation qu'on propose à tous les enfants qui abandonnent l'école et qu'on met en apprentissage. Et on l'utilise également pour la formation dans le secteur domestique également. On utilise cette modalité pour la formation dans le secteur des mines aujourd'hui où il y a beaucoup d'orpaillage. Donc, c'est des modalités qu'on utilise pour former les gens à l'exploitation avec l'utilisation des produits licites. Donc, on est en train vraiment de développer cette modalité de formation dans beaucoup de secteurs avec beaucoup de partenaires. Donc, ça, c'est l'apprentissage dual qualifiant. Donc, avec un contrat, ainsi de suite. L'aspect aussi sur lequel nous avons été sollicités plus sur ce panel, c'est l'apprentissage informel. Nous avons mis en place un programme d'apprentissage traditionnel rénové, c'est comme ça qu'on l'appelle. Traditionnel rénové parce que dans nos pays, nous avons l'apprentissage qui est pratiqué dans nos cultures, dans nos coutumes. Vous avez des tisserands, vous avez des forgerons, vous avez des pêcheurs. Ils ont leur mode de transmission du savoir-faire, mais donc qui permet aux différentes générations d'avoir des métiers par secteur, des métiers par région, des métiers par famille, et qui se transmettent de génération en génération. Et avec l'urbanisation croissante, on voit ces formes d'apprentissage qui se caractérisent par des unités artisanales qui sont installées tout au bord de la route. Dans les villes, vous avez des salons de couture, des salons des coiffeurs, des couturiers, des soudeurs, dans lesquels, dans ces différentes unités artisanales, vous avez de l'apprentissage, des apprentis qui sont formés là-bas, qui apprennent le métier et qui s'insèrent avec ça, qui vivent avec ça. Malheureusement, ce système n'est pas connu, n'est pas reconnu dans le système formel de formation professionnelle. Pourtant, en Côte d'Ivoire, c'est près de 600 000 apprentis qui sont identifiés dans ces ateliers et qui connaissent le métier et qui y vivent. Donc, l'enseignement technique a donc mis une réforme en place qui permet donc premièrement, d'instituer, de créer un nouveau diplôme qu'on appelle le certificat de qualification au métier, et qui va sanctionner tous les apprentissages traditionnels et informels dans ces unités artisanales Deuxièmement, d'instituer ce qu'on appelle un examen de fin d'apprentissage. Donc, tous les jeunes qui rentrent dans ce dispositif d'apprentissage traditionnel, à la fin de leur formation, ils vont passer cet examen et ils vont passer un examen national. Et s'ils sont admis, on leur donne ce diplôme-là. Parce qu'on s'est rendu compte qu'il y en a qui font ce dispositif d'apprentissage pendant 5 ans, 6 ans. Et quand ils finissent, ils n'ont pas de diplôme. Ils ont la compétence, mais ils ne peuvent pas compétir au marché public, ils ne peuvent pas valoriser leur savoir-faire. Et donc, on a mis en place ce diplôme et cet examen-là. Et on est en train de travailler à mettre en place des matrices de compétences qui sont des sortes de référentiels de formation pour harmoniser tous les contenus des apprentissages dans ces unités artisanales. Et donc, voici un peu les 3 instruments qu'on a institués avec le gouvernement de Côte d'Ivoire. Et cette année, on a fait le premier examen de fin d'apprentissage pour près de 3000 nouveaux apprentis. Et donc, l'examen s'est bien déroulé. On a un taux de réussite de près de 90%. On savait que les jeunes maîtrisent vraiment le métier. Et donc, on va aller à échelle avec ce dispositif. Donc, voici un peu ce que je peux vous dire. On a aussi le dispositif de chantier école qu'on veut développer. On a commencé déjà avec la construction des logements sociaux où on place des jeunes pour apprendre le métier directement. Ils font 1 mois de cours théoriques sur le chantier et le reste, ils apprennent à construire. Donc, voici un peu ce que je peux vous dire sur le dispositif que nous sommes en train de mettre en place dans le cadre du programme de l'école de la deuxième chance avec le gouvernement de Côte d'Ivoire. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Thio, pour cet exposé très pertinent et pour ces perspectives extrêmement utiles pour la région, notamment la création du diplôme. Et également, c'est très important, l'obligation et l'institutionnalisation de l'examen à tous les apprenants de l'apprentissage traditionnel. Donc, je remercie chaleureusement nos 3 intervenants pour la qualité de leur intervention. Nous allons maintenant ouvrir la séquence des questions-réponses. Et j'ai vu qu'il y a des questions qui ont été déjà postées dans le Q&A. Donc, il y a une question pour Monsieur Bussingué sur le taux d'abandon et le taux d'insertion, donc à laquelle Monsieur Bussingué a eu la gentillesse de répondre directement par écrit. Il y a également une autre question pour le
Just
professeur
wanted
Sodaika
to give a follow up.
sur
Is correct.
l'approche, la méthodologie développée pour la conception des programmes de formation. Est-ce que c'est DACOM ou bien l'approche par compétence ou bien une autre approche? Monsieur Sodaika, la parole est à vous. Monsieur Sodaika? Professeur, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Est-ce que l'audience m'entend?
Oui, Karim, on t'entend.
D'accord.
Mr.
Je sais pas, est-ce
Soyeka,
que...
are you able to speak? There was a question addressed to you.
Hello, can you please repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes,
The question is in the Q&A. Yeah. Karim, please go ahead.
Yes, it's about the approach adapted to develop the curriculum. Is that DACUM or based approach competency?
I'm here.
Professor.
Karim, please.
Yes, it's about the approach adopted to develop the curriculum. Is
Yes.
is that DACUM or based approach competency?
It is a competence-based approach, and how we did when we start the first curriculum, we identified the bank, and they were kindly enough to work with us. So what we did the bank gave us one person per each department in the bank. And from that, we took their JDs, these are job descriptions, and what they're supposed to be doing as people from different departments, a series of tasks they're supposed to do. Then we backward engineering it as on when the student arrives, what tasks they are supposed to be given from small, simple to complex. In the process of doing the tasks, they would acquire the required skills. And from that, we compiled, and then we had a curriculum. But to answer the basic question was that, yes, this is a competence-based. It focuses on creating competences, and those competences are acquired by students performing tasks from simple tasks to more complex tasks. Thank you very much.
Merci à vous, professeur, pour ces précisions. Et je pense que nous sommes arrivés à la terme de cette première session qui nous a offert un panorama particulièrement riche des apprentissages de qualité en Afrique. Et juste, donc, je vais faire un bref recap. Donc, nous avons tout d'abord entendu l'Ouganda qui a mis en place des approches très structurées et innovantes pour rendre les apprentissages davantage inclusifs, notamment pour les jeunes vulnérables, les femmes et les réfugiés dans le secteur du tourisme et de l'agriculture. Et ensuite, nous avons découvert l'expérience de la Tanzanie qui a développé un dispositif d'apprentissage innovant, pas seulement dans le secteur bancaire, mais également dans le secteur des assurances et le secteur du tourisme. Et cette initiative illustre parfaitement l'importance d'un partenariat entre les institutions de formation et les entreprises, pas seulement dans la conception, mais également dans la mise en œuvre de la formation. Et enfin, nous avons exploré le cas de la Côte d'Ivoire qui mène une réforme ambitieuse pour moderniser les apprentissages dans l'économie informelle, notamment avec la création d'un diplôme dédié aux apprentissages et l'obligation d'un examen à tous les apprenants inscrits dans l'apprentissage traditionnel. Donc, merci beaucoup à tous les intervenants et à tous les participants. Et nous allons maintenant passer à la session suivante sur la promotion des apprentissages de qualité, expérience émergente de pays. Et elle sera modérée par mon collègue Albert Rocal. Albert, je te passe la parole. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Karim, and good morning, the participant of this meeting. I've put on my video. I don't know if it is visible. I don't see myself, so.
We can see you, Albert.
But anyway,
yes.
I think, okay, thank you so much. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Albert Okal. I am the specialist for skills and lifelong learning. I'm based in the ILO office in Pretoria, and my geographical coverage is in Southern and East Africa. So today, and especially after Karim's session, we want to look into the countries that are currently in the process of reforming their apprenticeship program. My colleague Laura, in her presentation, indicated that the demand for quality apprenticeship motivated the ILO to develop through our constituents a new recommendation to give impotence to the development in the world of work and to improve further the outcome of apprenticeship as a mode of training. In my panel, we will have reflections from the government of Ethiopia. We will also have reflections from employers from Zambia, and also the government of Senegal. And also we'll hear reflections from Juakali Association from the Republic of Kenya. Just to start, I would like to highlight the objective of this session. As I indicated earlier, there is a growing demand and interest from many of our member states and our constituents to expand quality apprenticeship approach because of several reasons. Every country has their own motivation and incentive of improving apprenticeship training systems in their country. And therefore, what we want to find out in this session is, first of all, what are those motivations that are driving countries to reform existing policy legislative processes that is guiding work-based learning program. And then the second thing that we want to hear is what are the processes and steps that different countries are taking in their effort to reform their systems. But also we would like to reflect, even at this early stage of these reforms, what are the bottlenecks that they're already facing, but also to reflect on what are the opportunity that is actually driving the agenda forward that they're embarking in this particular reform. So with me are esteemed distinguished panelists from the countries that I've mentioned, and we will have our from Zambia, we'll have Mr. Harrington Chibanda, who is the Executive Director, Zambia Employers Federation. We'll request that when they do take the floor, they would open their camera if possible, and also take 1 minute or less to introduce themselves and their organizations. And from Senegal, we will have Mr. Souley Kane, who is the Director of Apprenticeship in the Ministry of Employment and Technical and Vocational Training. And from the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, we will have Dr. Teshome Lema, who is Senior Advisor to the Minister in the Ministry of Labor and Skills. And from Kenya, we will have Mr. Nyamai Wambua, who is the Head of Programs and Linkages at the Kenya National Federation of Juakali Association. Therefore, I would like to welcome all of our esteemed panelists and thanking them for taking time to join and contribute in our panel. The session itself is 1 hour, and we will give, just like the previous session, approximately 4 minutes for each panelist to respond to the question in a reflective manner. And also we'll have a Q&A and then conclusion remarks for 4 minutes. So as I said, panelists, when you do take the floor, kindly put your camera on, introduce yourself, and also briefly your organization before you start the questions. So to start with our session, I would like to call upon Mr. Chibanda from Zambia. Mr. Chibanda, we know that employers in Zambia are at the forefront of reforming the apprenticeship legislative framework. We understand that Zambia is currently reviewing or developing an apprenticeship bill, which is at an advanced stage. What we are interested to find out is what gaps do you hope that this new bill will fill? And in the process of consultations and dialogue around this bill, what are the most contentious issues that are coming up amongst key stakeholders in Zambia? Over to you, Mr. Chibanda.
Thank you very much, Albert. I don't know if you are able to see me. I've switched on my camera. I can't see myself, but I want to believe that the audience is able to see me.
Okay, now I can hear you very well, but I can't see you. But anyway, continue.
I've actually switched on my camera. I don't know, maybe it's a technical issue, but anyway, let me proceed. Yes, my name is Harrington Chibanda, as I've been ably introduced by the moderator. I'm sitting in Lusaka right now, and I'm CEO for the Zambia Federation of Employers. So, Albert, before I come to the bill that we are putting in place to come up with an Apprenticeship Act, let me indicate about the work that we did as Zambia Federation of Employers after the ILO passed the R208. We in the Zambia Federation of Employers decided we should raise awareness to our members on the R207. Here I'm talking about a membership of 650 companies that are members of the Zambia Federation of Employers across the country. Of course, we are also on a movement of recruiting more so that we could actually reach even 1,000 and more. So we had to make the industry understand that there's now a quality apprenticeship recommendation, number 208, which the employers, workers, and governments developed in Geneva, and its contents needed to be understood. So we went around a number of towns and brought employers together to disseminate the R208. A few issues came up. One was on the issue of the recognition of the fact that an apprentice should be recognized as an employee, which is not a big issue because even our own Zambian labor law has recognized an apprentice as an employee. But the critical issue that came out was when it comes to certain rights that they must enjoy, like the right to belong to a union. There was a feeling from the employers that since they have come in the industry to learn, why should they even be given the right to belong to a union? But anyway, we explained it as it is provided for in the recommendation. But then let me say that after that, as a country, we realized that we had an archaic legislation on apprenticeship, which was, I think, formed in 1976, somewhere there. And since then, it has never been reviewed. So we then looked at it and we found a lot of gaps. The gaps that Albert, you are asking for, about which we want to fill up in the new law that we are formulating. For instance, there was no recognition of stakeholder collaboration in terms of making industry work together with the training institutions, work together with the regulatory authority, work together with the government. There are no such provisions in the old law. And so we want to open up to ensure that if quality apprenticeship is to be a success in the country, there has to be this collaboration and also getting to understand the different roles each stakeholder will have to play. For instance, we noted that apprenticeships is going on in some companies, especially in our mining companies, where they realize the aspect of the skills mismatch and the skills gaps. And so on their own, they decided they should have a mechanism of filling up the skills gaps. And so they've embarked on some apprenticeship programs, but they are doing them without the aspect of having these apprentices having an opportunity to be in a learning in a classroom. So it's everything is on the at the industry. And so now we are coming in and saying, no, let's open up and have this collaborative mechanism to ensure that apprentices can spend time in the industry. They can also spend time in the classroom, so that there's a combination of both the theory and the practical aspect of learning. So the act that we are coming up with really is trying to open up how should we have a proper mechanism of, in fact, the act is called the bill. It's a bill now, and we are hoping that by next year it should be presented before Parliament, because currently it is at our Ministry of Justice. So we are simply calling it a work-based bill So even the act, once it's passed, it will become a work-based act. So apprenticeships is just one of the forms of the work-based training programs that we want to actually conduct. You may also wish to know, the ODS, that the issue of developing sector skills bodies, which I think now is the way to go in trying to ensure that skills for relevant sectors are being developed. So we have in Zambia a program called Skills Development for Increased Employability Program, which is funded by the EU, and it's housed at the ILO, but then with all of us as stakeholders, the trade union, employers, the governments, training institutions, we've come together, and our role as ZFE, Zambia Federation of Employers, has been to mobilize the industry to come on board. And when we form these sector skills bodies, the industry should actually be present in these sector skills bodies and play a bigger role, especially when it comes to skills and specials, and also being involved in curriculum development. So the bill is actually trying to address those issues, even how do we ensure that curriculum is developed, which is really addressing the needs of the industry. The bill is also addressing issues of how do we ensure that even safety of these apprentices is granted, or anyone who's doing a work-based learning, the safety is granted. Everything that goes with a worker in a workplace must be extended to those that come on as the work-based learners. So basically, Albert, those are the issues that we are trying to address. But I can say that there's a lot of collaboration among the stakeholders. And recently we decided that we should do a pilot national apprenticeship program where we want to put about 1,000 apprentices on the market. And as ZFE, we're asked to do an advert to our members so that those companies who can volunteer to be host enterprises can actually come on board, and then we place these apprentices in the institutions, and also identify training institutions that should also partner with us. So we ran an advert, and now we've received a lot of applications. So we'll soon be going into the selection process, and then thereafter we'll now advertise now to the youth so that we bring on board those that would want to participate on this apprenticeship program. So a pilot of 1,000 apprentices is what we are going to do. So that is just on the apprenticeships, but we've got other work-based training programs like internships, which is also running parallel with the apprenticeship. I think in answering your first question, those are the responses that I could provide.
Thank you so much, Director Chibanda, for that detailed explanation. And it highlights the fact that my colleague raised in her opening presentation about the need to position apprenticeship on a legal framework. This is also the element that is have been clearly indicated in the recommendation 208. Thanks so much for that, and I hope our audience are taking note. Remember that these are countries that are at this process of reforming, improving or updating their apprenticeship systems to align either with the recommendation 208 or with the developments that are happening in the world of work. Excuse me. So next we'll go to Senegal, where recently the government has approved a national apprenticeship strategy. Again, a policy framework. We would like to hear from you, sir, the vision that this strategy is aiming to contribute to or achieve. And we would also like to hear what are the processes that Senegal went through in developing this strategy, especially ensuring that the strategy includes views of the key stakeholders who are relevant to the apprenticeship system in Senegal. Over to you, Director.
Merci beaucoup, chers participants. Je m'appelle Souley Khan, je suis le directeur de l'apprentissage au ministère de l'Emploi et de la formation professionnelle et technique du Sénégal. Je voudrais saluer l'Union africaine, l'OIT, les féliciter, mais aussi féliciter particulièrement et remercier le Bureau international du travail de Dakar, Madame la directrice, mais aussi Monsieur Karim Toumi, qui nous ont accompagnés dans le cadre de l'élaboration du document de politique nationale de l'apprentissage professionnel de qualité au Sénégal. Un document qui existait depuis 2015, mais grâce à l'appui de l'OIT, ce document a été révisé, validé techniquement et validé institutionnellement avec toutes les parties prenantes, l'État, l'Assemblée nationale, le patronat, les sociétés civiles, les organisations professionnelles, le secteur privé et quasiment les apprentis et les maîtres d'apprentissage. Cette stratégie de qualité s'inscrit aussi dans une approche globale de l'État du Sénégal qui veut, à l'horizon 2029, former 700 000 jeunes, aussi bien dans le secteur formel que dans le secteur informel. Et dans le secteur formel, surtout au niveau des centres de formation, mais le secteur informel dans le dispositif de l'apprentissage est beaucoup plus important en termes de chiffres, en termes de maillage. Raison pour laquelle les autorités sont engagées à mettre un document de cadrage qui s'arrime aux orientations de la recommandation 208, notamment tout ce qui est cadre réglementaire, tout ce qui est partenariat, dialogue social, protection sociale, mais aussi des apprentissages de qualité. Cette vision de 2029 nous permettra d'avoir sur place des jeunes qualifiés et une main-d'œuvre qualifiée, mais aussi une mise à niveau des unités de production qui sont au Sénégal quasiment au nombre de 420 000. Et ces 420 000 qui ont quasiment 2 à 3 jeunes, vous faites la multiplication, ça fait plus de 1,5 million de jeunes qui sont dans des unités d'apprentissage. Et l'engagement permettra d'abord de réduire le temps d'apprentissage. Cette stratégie permettra de réduire le temps d'apprentissage, de les accompagner à la validation à la certification pour les apprentis et à la validation des acquis de l'expérience pour les maîtres d'apprentissage. Nonobstant maintenant tout ce qui est dispositif d'accompagnement à l'insertion, avec l'introduction du module de l'entrepreneuriat, mais aussi avec l'introduction des modules de soft skills, tout ce qui est comportement socio-émotionnel, mais aussi tout ce qui est compétences générales qui devraient acquérir au niveau des centres de formation et qui font que l'apprentissage au Sénégal est un apprentissage dual. 80% dans les unités de production et 20% dans les centres de formation professionnelle. Cette stratégie aussi est basée aussi sur l'amélioration de l'acquisition de compétences, notamment tout ce qui est traduction des manuels, des curricula en langue nationale et leur production aussi en capsules numériques qui permettront plus tard à ces jeunes d'allier le visuel et l'écrit. Ceux qui ne savent pas lire peuvent observer, voir et s'inscrire dans un cadre d'apprentissage de qualité. Nous sommes fiers aussi parce que nous avons l'accompagnement du patronat, le secteur privé, qui porte ce projet. Et d'ailleurs même qui souhaiterait plus tard qu'il y ait une loi spécifique sur l'apprentissage. C'est vrai qu'il y a une loi sur la formation professionnelle et technique d'une manière générale. Il y a des articles qui ont indexé l'apprentissage. Mais il souhaiterait qu'il y ait une loi spécifique sur l'apprentissage compte tenu de son envergure. Par rapport aussi à l'engagement des parties prenantes, nous sommes aussi rassurés par les organisations professionnelles qui sont présentes depuis le début du processus et qui permettent de véhiculer autour de leur panel les bonnes pratiques en matière de gestion de l'environnement, en matière de gestion des droits de l'apprenti, aussi en matière d'acquisition, de partage de bonnes pratiques mutuelles entre eux. C'est l'occasion aussi de mettre en exergue la politique d'apprentissage au niveau de la politique de l'emploi. Heureusement, nous avons pris les devants en ayant un document de validation nationale de la politique d'apprentissage. Et dans les jours prochains, nous aurons la validation du document national de la politique de l'emploi et du document national de la politique d'insertion. Ces documents réunis avec le mien permettront au Sénégal de mieux positionner l'apprentissage dans ce schéma global, mais aussi mieux répondre aux exigences des entreprises en matière de main-d'œuvre qualifiée. La gouvernance aussi, il y a une gouvernance territorialisée. Donc, au niveau de chaque région, nous avons ce qu'on appelle des comités régionaux de mise en œuvre de l'apprentissage. Organes locaux, multi-acteurs, qui participent au processus de sélection des maîtres d'apprentissage, de sélection des apprentis, de suivi des enseignements apprentissage au niveau, mais aussi de la certification et de l'appui à l'insertion. L'autre point qui est important aussi, nous sommes alignés aussi au contenu, au dispositif des organisations régionales, notamment l'UEMOA et la CEDEAO par rapport à l'orientation de l'accompagnement des apprentis et des maîtres d'apprentissage. Et enfin, nous avons aussi l'adhésion des partenaires techniques au développement, des partenaires financiers. Lors de l'atelier de validation, tous les partenaires techniques au développement, les partenaires financiers ont répondu présent. Heureusement, parmi ces partenaires, quasiment tout le monde a eu à participer à l'élaboration de la feuille de route, mais aussi à l'expérimentation de projets de mise en œuvre de l'apprentissage au niveau du Sénégal. Pour dire que le Sénégal est sur la bonne voie, la recommandation 208 avec l'accompagnement du BIT est en bonne marche. Et les prochaines étapes, c'est des tournées de communication au niveau du Sénégal pour partager avec eux ce document extrêmement important et en faire une appropriation globale. Mais aussi essayer de voir des ateliers pilotes et des régions pilotes pour commencer à mettre en œuvre ces stratégies de qualité, notamment la protection des apprentis, mais aussi notamment tout ce qui est amélioration des enseignements apprentissages pour que l'apprenti soit la boîte noire de la mise en œuvre de la recommandation 200. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Monsieur Kane, for that elaborate description you provided on the sessions that, the processes that Senegal has gone through in reviewing and updating the apprenticeship strategy. You had highlighted the policy coherence and the intention to make sure that this strategy is aligned with other policy instruments that the country are either developing or already have. You've highlighted the need to integrate development that is taking place, for example, digitization into the apprenticeship program. I'm also happy to hear that you're not going to end up with the strategy, but rather you're already working on interventions through pilot programs and the governance structure, the social dialogue structure that they'll put forward. Thanks so much. So the next speaker in our panel is Dr. Teshome, who is, as I said, the senior advisor to the Ministry of Labor and Skills. Dr. Teshome, the government of Ethiopia, Ethiopian government and social partners recently commenced the process of reviewing their work-based learning programs, which is also inspired by the new recommendation 208. We would like you to share with us what gaps do you see in the current cooperative learning approach that Ethiopia has been having for quite some times now that you feel will be improved by adopting recommendation 208, and why do you think that stakeholders who are key to implementing apprenticeship, as you have heard from all the speakers, why do you think that these stakeholders are now ready to adopt a more robust quality apprenticeship system in Ethiopia? Welcome, and you can take the podium.
Thank you, Albert. I don't know, the videos is not
Yeah, we can
working.
see you very clearly.
You,
Yours
you
is
can see
working.
me. That's good. I
Yes,
can't see
thank you.
myself. Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is good afternoon from my side, and for others, good morning. Thank you. Basically, as you said, we are now re-examining our system from system perspective. Ethiopia's decision is to review its work-based learning architecture emerged from the precise diagnosis of our cooperative training model, while valuable, was not operating at the level of structure, standardization, and accountability required for the modern demand-driven skill ecosystem, which we introduced by our strategy, which is a previous strategy, 2008, second strategy in the Ethiopian history. So the third strategy, the TVET strategy 2025, which we launched last week with the presence of a large number of stakeholders from development partner and others, identifies a persistent fragmentation of the governance, limited industry ownership, and even workplace supervision, and an absence of suitable financing mechanism. This constraint collectively weakened the feedback loops linking training to the supply to labor market demand. The reform momentum basically accelerated with the Education and Training Policy 2023, which is a new policy introduced by Ethiopian government after thorough study and developed based on the Ethiopian Education and Training Roadmap 2018 to 2030, which explicitly positioned work-based learning as a core instrument for industrialization, technology transfer, and labor market matching. So the policy mandates stronger employer participation in that regard, greater institutional autonomy, and diversified funding conditions that directly align with the global good practice on the quality apprenticeship, basically. What Laura discusses partly in the main document also. Legally, Ethiopia has already had a strong baseline on the labor proclamation 2019, particularly Article 49 up to Article 52, clearly mentioned about and recognizes the apprenticeship contracts, codifies rights and obligations, and anchors and workplace learning within the statutory labor right framework, which is in line with recommendation 208. So the Ministry of Labor and Skill also now develop apprenticeship guideline based on that, developed thereafter. The implementation is piloted somehow. So operationalize this provision, establishing minimum training standards, supervision requirements, and quality assurance. Next, according to this new strategy and direction, the recent establishment of the sector skill bodies make a major structural shift. We have established at least three of them. One is fully operationalized, the agro-processing, which have constituted a large number of industries. That will be our opportunities and to implement. So this major structural shift, this body is to initialize tripartite and multi-stakeholder engagement, ensuring that occupational standard, competency assessment, and curriculum design are co-led by industry rather than imposed by the government. This governance structure is fully consistent with institutional participation and model promoted under ILO recommendation 208, of course. So this is why now the other parties are interested to work with the government. So equally important, the introduction of a skill development levy, which is of course is going to be enforced by legal procedure based on the education training policy and the TVET law, This also gives for the private sector to manage this training approach, the apprenticeship. We call it this, known in the world, that is earn learn, not learn earn. The direction has to be shifted, and the enrollment can be increased. So we are now also exercising to develop a program and a flagship project for which serves to have a large number of apprenticeship in the coming years to during the implementation of the new strategy. So as articulated in both the new education policy and the TVET strategy in this regard, this creates a predictable financing stream for apprenticeship, enabling cost sharing between government and industry, another core element for the recommendation to zero waste quality assurance framework. So taken together, this reform, the enabling environment of Ethiopians previously lacked precise regulation, sustainable financing, industry-led governance, and strong labor protections. This is why the stakeholders, public, private, and development partners are now fully aligned and ready to transition from loosely coordinated cooperative training to robust quality assured apprenticeship system that is capable of supporting the economic transformation and the youth employment at scale. This is what I can say from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tishome. I mean, the way you have really built the case for the reason for reforming apprenticeship is really very impressive, and this highlights the fact that as much as people have a lot of interest in having apprenticeship programs in their countries, if the other enabling environment is not ready, it's going to probably not be successful. And I really like the way you've built the case and looking at the policy readiness. The fact that now partners are seeing that there is a huge potential to have sustainable funding that will also benefit employers, the realization that the current existing mechanism does not have adequate private sector engagement, and therefore they would shy away in participating in any effective work-based learning programs, and that has now been addressed adequately in the new education and training policy. I think all these developments have actually created a fertile ground for a quality apprenticeship program, and I hope our audience from different countries in the region who are also at different stages of developing apprenticeship system are also listening and learning and comparing with what exists in their countries. And we've heard even from Zambia as well as from other speakers. So thank you so much. Our last speaker is from Kenya. From the Jua Kali Association, which many people in the region understand that the Jua Kali Association is the association of the workers in the informal economy. And in Kenya, the association, like many other countries, is also a very good ground for skills development. And as part of modernizing or improving skills acquisition or recognizing the skills that are acquired informally, as we have heard from Cote d'Ivoire, the Jua Kali Association has been a leading voice in Kenya to promote validation and recognition of skills of their members. But what we would like to know is there really a demand for this recognition from the members themselves or even the labor market in Kenya? And also, can you provide some positive outcomes and bottlenecks that Jua Kali Association and other stakeholders have faced during the process of developing, but also providing skills recognition and validation for workers in the informal economy? Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Albert, and all the participants. And maybe I should just introduce myself. My name is Nyamai Wambua. I hope you can hear me and see me. Yeah.
We can hear you very clearly, and we can see you. The picture is not clear, but we can see you.
Oh.
Thank you, but we can hear you very clearly. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Okal. So my name is Nyamai Wambua. I am currently the Chief Executive Officer for the Kenya National Federation of Jua Kali Associations here in Kenya, which is an umbrella organization for skilled artisans organized around smaller associations across the country. And yeah, so just direct, maybe I can just jump into one is to say it is true, just like Albert, you have alluded to, that the Jua Kali sector here in Kenya is quite a very vocal and a very critical constituency that is considered so by the government, especially, and many other stakeholders in the education and training, the normal traditional education training, or even the wider skills development ecosystem. And we are very pleased that we have also been very, 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 instrumental in the development of the recognition of prior learning policy framework that also speaks to the, skills recognition for purposes of formalizing, but also of leveraging on the opportunities that are available in the informal economy for purposes of national development. So the motivation for us, but also for the country to focus on the informal Jua Kali sector here in Kenya was driven by the realization that the sector is very critical, but also the need to have an inclusive national economic development process where all actors in the economy are contributing and they are also participating, like it is already the case here in Kenya. And as you asked, of course, because we have been, as an organization, but also as a sector, been very, part and parcel of the policy framework for recognition of prior learning, but also all the other general education and training reforms initiatives, especially, for example, transitioning, first developing a very clear TVET subsector here in Kenya with the structures, but also now reforming the way the country trains and deploys TVET subsector programs from the traditional, more theoretical to the current competence-based education and training system, including what we are now adopting, more modern ways of delivering TVET, dualizing the TVET system, and even modularizing the TVET curricula, as it were. So back to your question in terms of demand. Yeah, and I'm sure participants can check, even records and reports that the recognition of prior learning agenda here in Kenya is primarily driven by the demand of the informal Jua Kali sector. We had begun this agitation and advocacy for this even way before the current policy and the current government administration picked it up. And so it is a continuous and quite a long journey of advocacy and conversation at the national level. And even the policy itself acknowledges that there's actually a paradox of skills mismatch, because we have a lot of people that are skilled and competent driving the economy, and yet they are not recognized. And then we have a lot of people who are looking for jobs and they have certificates, but they are not competent. So that paradox of skilled people without papers and less competent people with papers is what we were trying to fix. And the government reached out and said, what would be the role that the Jua Kali sector would do or play towards, fixing the skills mismatch and skills gap. So that is the strategy. Therefore, became first you recognize the existing skills, and that is how the policy that was actually largely supported by the International Labour Organization. There had been a few other attempts, but I think from around 2018 is when the International Labour Organization came in and brought in all the other stakeholders. So there has been a very wide, very broad and deep consultation and engagement of multi-sectoral platforms and interagency platforms just on this subject matter. So we are happy that of course, we even started implementing RPL without even a national policy through a pilot testing process. And the actors, employer organizations, workers organizations, including informal sector associations, came on board. The educational sector also came on board through the National Qualifications Authority, through national polytechnics, and through the entire education and the training sector. Because our national policy for recognition of prior learning is integrated on the existing education and training institutional and policy framework. So it is not a standalone, it is plugged into the existing education and training policy and legal framework. Of course, because of that, and the government's agenda to leverage on this sector, then we have had a very good working relationship and a very high level, I would say, by policy support and even political buy-in from all at the highest level of government and leadership. Perhaps what I just want to say in terms of quick successes, after we did a pilot between 2020 and 2022, we later, 2023 and 2024, we later launched the national policy by the government. And then we are now into a national rollout where the government has actually committed to support over 1 million candidates from across different industries and sectors and occupations to be assessed and certified. And this is through very, very, very targeted and intentional national investments. For example, in the construction sector, the government is implementing a very robust national housing program where it has also decided, the government has also decided to include recognition of prior learning as one of the areas to benefit from the huge constructions that are going across the country. The entire country is actually a construction site, and therefore skilled artisans and workers that are getting opportunities to work in those sites are also being given an opportunity to be assessed and certified as part of the benefits. So I should say perhaps that of course, we have one or two issues in terms of challenges and areas that needs to be tweaked. That while we began very clearly with the support of ILO and many other actors in laying the foundation, putting a national policy framework for RPL, developing all the guidelines and tools for implementation, so that to guide all the many actors that are involved, we have also seen a bit of perhaps lack of clear and common understanding, I think consensus on how the system needs to really look like. There are still areas where it is being viewed as a competitor to education, the traditional education, in fact, not even a competitor, as even a lower quality form of system. And therefore, we have seen a bit of reluctance. While the high level policy support is available, at the implementation level, we have seen a bit of concerns of quality assurance, where implementing qualification awarding bodies and organizations are feeling like perhaps there needs to be a cap, for example, as to what level of assessment, what level of competence are supposed to be assessed and certified. So that is a fear that has been seen, which needs to be addressed. The other one that we have seen is lack of capacity of implementers, whether they are the supply side, which is basically educational training institutions, or a bias towards treating or addressing or approaching RPL as an educational service. And that therefore means that perhaps because of the target constituency not necessarily being people who have learned on the job in a traditional education, perhaps that addresses the issue of lack of consensus on how to the methodologies to use to access. The last, probably in terms of challenge that we have seen, is still gaps in terms of financing. Yes, it is important and the country has agreed this is the way to go, but investments in where and how much do we allocate, for example, resources to support recognition of prior learning, and the huge demand that is coming from the informal sector workers is becoming a challenge. So we have not yet secured exchequer allocation, for example, in terms of budget from government. We are still relying on generally stakeholders and development partners, for example, and there are no clear guidelines. There has been a bit of attempts to provide guidelines on costing and maybe assessment cost, but there is no harmonization. We have sub-frameworks that, for example, the education and training, developing their own guidelines on how to cost and perhaps meet the cost of assessment, but also we have other frameworks, and qualification awarding bodies that are also developing different guidelines for the same. So there is disparity in terms of, from a national perspective, in terms of addressing RPL assessment costs and the levels of qualification. But to the last comment, I should say that one of the benefits of this Kenya's RPL system is that it is demand driven. The informal sector itself has already seen two major benefits. One is the boosting of their self-esteem. They are now able to have a conversation with peers in industry across the labor market without necessarily feeling that they are disadvantaged for not having certifications or even not having to formal education training. So that is one. The other benefit that is driving this demand is the fact that the government has plugged in and given incentives for access to opportunities if you are certified. So that is creating a huge demand for candidates, prospective candidates from the informal economy, informal sector as it were, to come forward for assessment as a basis to access those largely government procurement opportunities. So we can say that because R208, one of the running theme is skills recognition and recognition of prior learning. We feel that the RPL system here in Kenya has laid a good foundation towards addressing and implementing R208 here in Kenya. Of course, we do not have yet a policy or specific policy or legal framework for Kenya in terms of, or even a roadmap in terms towards implementing R208, but we have laid, the country has laid the framework, the foundation through recognition of prior learning. And this is something that perhaps going forward we will be sharing because the country has declared a national rollout, a mass national rollout for recognition of prior learning. And that would therefore mean as people are being certified, they will be getting formalized, and we will be upgrading the traditional informal apprenticeship system that is very prevalent towards quality apprenticeships. Thank you very much, Okal and participants.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyamai, for that detailed presentation of the motivation, actually the demand that your members, the Juakali Association members, have shown on having their competencies and skills recognized. Christine, I don't know how I'm doing with time, but we have questions on our chat box, which we would like to throw to our panelists. Just to highlight the paradox that Mr. Nyamai has actually highlighted very nicely, where you have skills mismatch, but you also have skilled but unrecognized workers in the economy. And at the other end, you have recognized but people who don't have the competencies that are actually needed in the labor market. And therefore, that's where the country needs to say, okay, can we take stock of whom we have in the labor market that can actually help address the skills mismatch? We are very cognizant of the concerns that you've raised around the negative image or the resistance that the society that is so much used to formal education system is having against RPL, and therefore even your statement about the need to work more in terms of raising awareness amongst partners, especially on as you move down the system, because you see there's demand, there's also political support, there's even alignment with ongoing government policies. Of course, we know Kenya has a very youth employment friendly procurement program. And of course, integrating RPL certified workers in the affordable housing programs. Ethiopia, we don't have time, but Ethiopia has also been taking the steps in making sure that RPL candidates are also integrated into major public works that are supported by the government. But I don't want to preempt, because we have questions in the chat area. And I want to read very quickly to see if some of my panelists can respond. And then I want to thanks Christine for responding to some, but Stephanie is asking about the numbers. I recall, Mr. Chibanda, you had mentioned that currently in Zambia, the employers are working with other stakeholders. You are targeting a pilot program of around 1,000 apprentices. So Stephanie is asking about these numbers, if you can clarify a bit. And then we have a question also from Kenya. This can be taken by any panelist. Emma is asking, one of the major challenge in apprenticeship program is about finding a partner to finance the program itself. Can anyone give us any lead or a good example of how they've managed to finance apprenticeship in any country? So this one is open, but panelists, if you can take that. And then there's another one specifically to Mr. Chibanda, who assesses the apprentice upon completion of training. Perhaps this could be shared more by countries that have already implemented apprenticeship, but Mr. Chibanda, if you have answers also here, and whether is the apprenticeship, is the assessment done by the training providers or at the industry or by anybody that is designated or representative of the industry. Basically, they want to know how the apprenticeship, after the training, who assesses them, whether it is a TVET institution or it's an industry body, and so on and so forth. So I don't know who wants to go first in our panelist. I'm told I have only 1 minute, so we should be quick. Prof. Akoje, we recognize your comments on recommendation 2.8. I think Christine has also responded to it as well. So, Mr. Chibanda, you want to
let me go
start?
Yes,
please.
Let me go first, Albert. Thank you very much. In terms of the numbers, the 1,000, we're trying to put this 1,000 across all sectors, and it all depends on which companies open up as host enterprises, and then we'll place the numbers according to the response from the industry. But preferably, we are looking at the mining sector, we are looking at the agriculture sector, we are looking at the tourism sector, we are also looking at the manufacturing sector, that we should have these people placed as the apprentices. Now, the question on the certification, and this is why we are talking of a dual kind of arrangement, a certain period in the classroom and another in the industry, so that then at the certification, since the training institutions, they are actually, they are accredited certifiers, they will then do the certification, but recognizing the fact that the training has been a dual arrangement where they've been industry experience and also classroom experience. I don't know if that response is adequate.
No, thank you so much.
The funding for us, for us, the funding currently, like I said, this pilot is being funded by a project which I did mention, the Skills Development for Increased Employability Program. But what has been happening before this pilot we are doing, remember I did mention that a number of companies have been doing it on their own. So they've been spending on it, and we hope that for sustainability, that will actually be the way, that it will be industry spending, but also families of these people who are going for apprenticeship also spending. Do not, in the work-based learning bill, we've also provided for an aspect of tapping into what we call the skills levy. Because in Zambia, like other countries, we do have a skills development levy, which we feel that since it sits at TVET, we can as well tap into it because the apprenticeships is just one form of training. So we are thinking that we can tap into those funds as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chibanda. And I think Dr. Teshome could also allude to this on this funding. I think you highlighted how is the reforms addressing the funding issue in Ethiopia?
Of course, as I talked, it is an early stage. We are going to endorse it, the legal framework for this. We cannot push directly, but the policy is there. The legal framework is now already crafted. The government is going to endorse. After that, they will establish a fund which is will be managed by the private sector themselves. And when they offer the training through apprenticeship or a dual system with technical schools, they will utilize these funds back to their companies. This is the approach is positively. When we discuss on the strategy, all the private sector participant was accepting this is very contributing, and also we are thinking how we can incentivize. So the TVET law is now under revision. We'll put that how the private sector who contribute for the levy will be get incentive in different forms in tax, including taxes. This is the point I have for the landing.
Okay, no, thanks, Dr. Teshome, for that intervention. I hope that gives some light into the funding issue, but yes, we agree, and all panelists have highlighted the need to have a sustainable funding for all this particular program, including our last panelist. My panelists, thank you so much for getting time and also for your in-depth contribution to our sessions. I hand over to Christine for the subsequent sessions that are remaining. And we have some comments also in the chat, so people could read some of the responses and also reflections. Thanks.
Yeah, I hand over to Mila. Thanks, Albert.
Hello. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you. So thank you, Albert. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mila Lasso. I'm the ILO skills specialist for Central Africa. And as we heard this morning, quality apprenticeships are one of the most effective ways to reduce skills mismatches, tackle informality, and create real pathways into decent work for apprentices. So strengthening these systems requires strong investment and leadership from the private sector to ensure that apprenticeships are demand-driven and are, of course, aligned with labor market needs across the continent. So for this segment, we are pleased to have the International Organization of Employers, IOE, with us, representing the voice of the private sector. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Amadou Sakho, Advisor for Africa at the International Organization of Employers, IOE, who will share his reflections on how to advance quality apprenticeships in Africa from an employer's standpoint. Mr. Sakho, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So as we're coming soon to the end of this rich and forward-looking discussion, it's clear that the exchanges held today, they have reaffirmed both the urgency and the potential of advancing quality apprenticeship across Africa. And the experience shared from different countries, they demonstrate that is not an abstract agenda. It's a concrete lever for improving young people's prospect, strengthening enterprise competitiveness, and accelerating inclusive economic transformation. And throughout the sessions, several cross-cutting insights emerge. They provide an essential foundation for the next phase of work, and they guide how all organizations intend to support countries and regional partners moving forward. And I think the first overreaching insight is that the apprenticeship system must evolve in step with Africa's fast-moving economic landscape. And as highlighted on earlier discussions, young employment and informality remain structural challenges in Africa. Yet the continent is also undergoing profound diversifications, new opportunities in digital services, agro-processing, construction technologies, transport and logistics, financial services, are redefining skills demand. So when enterprise describe the barriers they face, skill searches consistently appear at the top of the list, and we've heard it many times today. So this makes work-based learning models not only relevant, but indispensable. And the recommendation 208 that was referred to many times earlier provides a common language and a global reference that can help align training supply with economic demands in a more systemic way. The second insight concerns the ecosystem required to make apprenticeship work at scale. So the country cases presented today, they reveal the same essential pattern. So apprenticeships thrive where there is genuine cooperation, where institutional frameworks are predictable, and where enterprises are empowered to play their role as training providers. And this is not simply a technical question. It's a matter of coherence and coordination. So the alignment between ministries of labor, education, between national training authorities and social partners, between national strategies and regional commitments under the EU Continental TVET strategy and Yes Africa, that determines how well young people can transition into productive work. And I must commend the work that the ILO is doing in Africa, led by my dear friend and sister Christine Hoffman, which is remarkable. So as employers, we urge all stakeholders to maintain really and deepen this coordination, because fragmented systems cannot deliver the scale of change Africa requires. And the third major insight is the need to bridge formal and informal learning environments. It has been mentioned. So several speakers highlighted that a large proportion of Africa youth enter the labor market through informal apprenticeships. And this system, despite their limitation, are often rooted in strong local dynamics and have proven capacity to absorb millions of young people. And here again, Christine and her team, they're doing an amazing work. The fourth takeaway concerns the quality assurance. Employers across the continent emphasize that apprenticeships must deliver solid, verifiable competencies. And this point was reinforced by a few country cases. Effective quality assurance is not about bureaucratic control. It's about ensuring the programs correspond to the real occupational needs, that mentors inside enterprise are adequately supported, and that assessment systems are credible. Only then can apprenticeship become a trusted pathway for firms, family, and learner. And maybe a last insight relates to the importance of simplifying systems. And many participants, again, noted that enterprises, especially SMEs, are facing many constraints, including administrative ones, that can discourage participation. So if Africa wants apprenticeships to expand from 100,000 from millions, procedures must be predictable, efficient, and accessible, and incentives that encourage companies to host apprentices, combined with streamlining processes, can have significant impact. So in light of all these insights, there are several priorities that are standing out and that are crucial, we believe, for next step. So countries should invest in reinforcing in company trainers. They should expand dual apprenticeship models where structured school-based instruction is combined with real-work exposure. They should strengthen recognition of prior learning, an area where some countries' experience provides strong example. They should reinforce data system because without available information on skills demand, labor outcomes, and programs performance, reform cannot effectively steer. And finally, the overreaching message that I believe emerged today is one of partnership. So quality apprenticeships represent a shared responsibility. Governments provide the regulatory and policy foundation. Enterprises create the real opportunities for learning and employment. Workers' organizations help ensure fairness, safety, and constructive social dialogue. Regional institutions play a vital role in harmonizing standards and ambitions. Development partners, they provide essential technical cooperation. None of these actors can succeed alone. But together, as today's exchange demonstrate, they can shape apprenticeship system capable of delivering both economic transformation and social progress. So on behalf of the International Organization of Employers, let me reiterate our commitment to support this agenda. Employers' organizations across Africa can stand ready to deepen collaboration with governments, training institutions, and social partners. So we'll continue to advocate for policies that align skills with economic needs, strengthen enterprise participation, and ensure that young people gain the competency required for productive, meaningful work. So Christine, congratulations to you and your team, and keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sacco, for your valuable reflections and for bringing the private sector perspective to this important conversation. And I will now give the floor to Christine Hoffman from the ILO and Nicolas Uma from the AUC to wrap up and discuss next steps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mila, and thanks, Amadou. This was the first time I was mistaken for Christine Lagarde. People seem to mistake me for Celine Dion. So, so joke aside, very difficult to wrap up and really conclude this very rich debate. I have 3 points and 3 messages that I'd like to quickly pass before handing over to Nicolas from the African Union. And maybe before I do that, there was one very important open question we didn't get to much that our dear research partner from the Real Institute in South Africa has raised on numbers of apprentices. And if we had more time, I think it would have been worthwhile really doing the round of all the countries to see where they stand, because some countries are at the piloting stage, so we talk about hundreds. In others, where systems are already larger, we talk of thousands. So in Côte d'Ivoire, we've reached around, I think, 15,000 dual apprentices. They've just started the Certificat de Qualification Métier with several thousands. Ethiopia, with a recognition of prior learning, I think has now reached 25,000 or so. So numbers are growing, and if we talk about real transitions to formality and we want to address the reality of apprenticeships in the informal economy, we talk of millions of young people that are already apprenticing on the job. So my 3 points, very briefly. Recommendation 208 is not a straitjacket, but it gives the frame to sensitize and bring people together so that this awareness, this joint awareness can be created for joint strategy making, or even policy making that we've seen is happening in countries, and then providing direction for the implementation. Now, second, when countries want to get started with improving apprenticeships, it's very important to make the right choices and to look at sectors and occupations where either already work-based learning is happening at scale, or where we are seeing a clear demand from employers for quality skills and for upgrading, where skills mismatch plays already an important role. So it's much easier to get started with apprenticeship programs in these contexts, for these occupations, if sectors are exporting, have a high skill equilibrium, if we say. So that's an important choice to make. And then thirdly, for quality apprenticeships to become a reality, we need inclusive social dialogue, tripartite or tripartite plus social dialogue in countries and sectors concerned, so that this vision becomes a shared vision by all parties. And that this vision is not only translated into the design, but also happens in the implementation, in the monitoring and evaluation, in the oversight of the system. So, what are the things we need to do? Invest, expand, recognize, protect apprentices. I think those were already the big messages. Before handing over to Nicholas and thanking the African Union again for the partnership, I'd like to thank all the specialists, the ILO specialists in Africa, for this great collaboration. You've met them all in this webinar, so this has really been a very nice and joint undertaking, and to all the colleagues in Côte d'Ivoire for the background work. Thank you once again, and to all speakers for sharing your experience with us. Nicholas, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Confirm you can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you once again. On behalf of the African Union Commission, I extend my profound gratitude to ILO and all our distinguished speakers and each one of us for the invaluable contribution to this rich dialogue. Over the past 2.5 hours, we've been presented with the rich experience on the implementation of ILO's recommendation 208 on quality apprenticeship. The presentations underscore the following common thread, and in this common thread, I will just echo what you have said, Christine, and also re-echo the reflections ably presented by Amadou Sakho. First is that the ILO recommendation 208 provides a robust and practical blueprint for quality apprenticeship. The second common thread is that the African nations are already pioneering innovative approaches, as we have heard from the different countries that have made presentation. Third is that the synergy between recommendation 208 and the African Union's Continental TVET strategy is the operational path forward to bridge the skills gap and tackle youth employment. In this African Union's Continental TVET strategy that we were supported by ILO in its development, the 3 principles and the 4 mutually reinforcing pillars underscore the importance also of jobs, skills development and jobs. The energy and insights shared today must not end when we log off from this webinar. The conversation must lead to the upscaling of the promising practices that we have had. And to that end, I also wish to highlight 3 opportunities for follow-up and collaborative action. Follow-up support and collaboration. I'm just saying, re-echoing what Amadou Sako said, but in different words. Number 1 is mainstreaming recommendation 208 into national TVET reforms. Our member states and social partners should use the principles of recommendation 208 as a diagnostic and development tool. The African Union Commission and ILO are ready to provide the targeted technical support to integrate these standards into national apprenticeship policies, ensuring that they are inclusive, demand-driven, and governed by a very, very strong social dialogue, as we have had from the presentations today. Number 2 is that the experiences we have shared today are a continental public good. We need to systematize this exchange. And maybe, Christine, I'm proposing that we work towards a dedicated community of practice or a knowledge hub, or strengthening the ones that do exist to facilitate this mutual learning, documenting best practices, and accelerating the adoption of quality apprenticeship. Additionally, also, as we have heard, we must continue with our communication and advocacy on recommendation 208. Third, mobilizing or rather strengthening partnerships for investment. Translating policies into practice require investment. We are encouraging stronger partnerships between governments, the private sector, and development partners to co-invest in quality apprenticeship systems. We must work together to develop bankable projects that can attract funding, particularly those focusing on digital skills, green economies, and the inclusion of young women and youth into in the informal economy. Of course, we've had presentations on this, especially from, among others, the Juakali sector in Kenya. In conclusion, the success of our continental strategies, be it the Continental TVET strategy or Yes Africa initiative, or even recommendation 208, will be measured by the opportunities that we create for our youth at the grassroots level. Quality apprenticeships are a critical level for this. We must be the active champions for this quality apprenticeship. And the African Union Commission will be working with all of us towards this end. Thank you very much. Back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. These were the closing words from the African Union. So nothing to add.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a lovely day, all of you. We will continue.
Bye. Bye.